I made it, and we are here. We have a guest today. I'm so thrilled that she stuck with me because I had to cancel on her like once or twice. I'm totally well. Let's put it this way: I could be a lot more organized and together about the way I handle guests, but I'm working on it. But I have followed this woman, this gal for I think years now, and I'm going to bring her on just one second. But we finally got something together, found a time that works. She is in Australia, and I think that it's 5 a.m. there. Let's see. All right, so I'm going to bring you on. what
Hi.
What's up? This is Jamiee Marshall, and she's a writer for Evie magazine. And we're going to put you full screen in just a minute. But she's a writer for Evie magazine. And is it true that it's 5 a.m. where you are?
It is. It is 5:12 a.m. I have not slept yet. It was just easier for me to stay up. So,
Wow.
yeah,
Well, I appreciate it, and we're certainly going to cut you any slack on, like if you nod off or something.
yeah. Thank
but
you.
um, but you have all kinds of great comments on Twitter. I'll link to your page below when we get off here, and I always laugh at stuff you write, even the times that I don't agree, which there always are with people. In general, I think we're mostly on the same page, but no matter what, I always admire your prose and your satire. So people should
Thank you.
definitely check you out. Anyway, so are you keeping up with the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni stuff? Did you read the amended complaint?
I did. I read all 140 pages. I actually reread the entire thing just because it had been, like a little bit of time had passed since I read, the full original complaint. So I figured, like, I'll just read it front to back just to make sure, like, I remember everything that she originally claimed and could spot, what new things she included in her allegations. And it was just a giant nothing burger, in my opinion. And I guess that's the takeaway I'm seeing most other people say. I mean, where's the evidence? Like, it was just not even like, not even did she miss drop the ball in attaching any names or screenshots or just anything to prove that any of this happened besides like, hearsay. But I feel like she was backtracking and she was putting in these like snarky comments and random thing like, what was that Hamas comment? That was I have a hard time believing it doesn't pass
They
the smell
said that
test.
Steve Sarowitz, so the complaint says that Steve Sarowitz, the billionaire funding Wayfarer and backing Justin Baldoni, that he has a militaristic worldview. And so I love that because it's so funny because what they're trying to do, you can see, is they're trying to get the sympathies of pro-Palestine people, which I'm not even getting into all that, right? Great, whatever your feelings are. But you can see that they're trying to politicize it in that way, like score some points with the people who are really invested in that situation. And so, yeah, so I just think that's funny. Or he said he was going to be like Hamas. Which was it? He was going to be like the Israelis dealing with Hamas, or he was going to be Hamas.
Honestly, I got whiplash from that comment. It was so absurd. I just, like, kind of zoned out there.
Oh man. So yeah, so here's the main thing that I want to start off with, and I do have a video coming on this. By the way, I posted on this yesterday, but I'm starting a series. And to me this seems like honestly so cheesy, but I'm starting a series. An English professor debunks Blake Lively's rhetorical strategies. I need a better
Oh
title than
my
that, but something like that, because I did used to be for years an English professor, and I do have a PhD in it. And I sound so pretentious and stupid when I say that, and it doesn't even mean really anything much. But I've noticed that it does have a certain like cachet with some people, and so I thought, well, since mostly what we're doing anyway these days is analyzing documents, why not present it that way? People might find it interesting. So my point being that one of the biggest red flags for me with this amended filing, and other people have been talking about this too, but one of the biggest red flags for me is this game that they play with Blake Lively's supposed text messages with text message conversations with other women who apparently Blake says also found that Baldoni made them uncomfortable, and that he was engaging in mild harassment of some kind, sexual harassment or toxic workplace behaviors or whatever. And I don't know if you noticed this or not, but there's a really manipulative game rhetorically that the amended complaint is playing with this, and also that Blake Lively's spokesperson and her lawyers are playing with this. And let me just explain. So after this amended complaint came out, her spokesperson made a statement and said that now we have corroborating evidence, that this amended complaint has presented corroborating evidence of the fact that there were other women, probably Jenny Slate and Isabel Farrar, people are speculating, but other women who made complaints about Justin Baldoni. Now, when someone says corroborating evidence, what that means to most people is solid evidence in the form of like text messages, screenshots of DMs, video, things of that nature, right? Or like rock solid witness testimony. Yeah. What it turns out, you all know this, if you looked at the amended suit, what it turns out, we don't get text messages. What we get, we don't even get documents from around this time. What we get is Blake Lively's recreation of supposed text and DM conversations that she had with women that they don't even name. There's none of these women are named in the suit, because apparently they're feeling edgy about coming forward, right, fully and identifying with this. So to me, that's a huge red flag when you're playing rhetorical games like that. You want the public to think that you have actual hard, solid evidence of these things. And then it turns out, no, it's just Blake Lively saying, like, she didn't even give us a text. She just says, this is what we talked about. Well, says you, bitch. Come on.
Yeah, anyway. Well, even more damning is, like, it's not like she didn't submit any text messages. She did submit some, except that they were nothing. Like, she only submitted text messages that showed absolutely nothing. And it's like, well, then why are you quoting these supposed text messages? If you have verbatim the words that you supposedly said, where are they? And I watched your stream yesterday, and I know you guys were talking about how apparently it's like not a requirement legally to submit these screenshots of text messages, but it's like it's in her best interest. Clearly she cares about her public image, very, very much so. And if it exists, and it went down the way you say it did, in context and everything, then why not? She has nothing to lose by putting that out there, especially after Baldoni just kind of had an answer for every single thing. It like an alibi for everything, every text contradicting over and over everything she's said basically since the start of this. And I mean, it's just very damning that literally the only thing she has done in this amended complaint is snarkily like thrown his words back at him in a way that honestly comes off to me as like very petty and narcissistic, like a bully. And it's like she doesn't hide the fact that she's trying to be like, yeah, Justin Baldoni used to say we should just believe women no matter what. But that's not a good argument, and that's not evidence, and that's not, damning against him. That's just like a bad ideology.
So I thought it was interesting how this amended complaint, initially they front loaded so many quotes or snippets from his own writing or his own like podcast presentations that he's done. And I thought that it was really weak because, to me, like you said, it proved absolutely nothing. And it did come across as snarky and petty. And so I don't know what effect they were trying to have with that. Did they really think that people were going to read that amended suit and see all these quotes from him about, believing women, et cetera, and think that shows anything? Yeah, it's easy to say believe women until you get fucking Me Too'd in a hoax like this. So I would imagine now if Justin Baldoni writes another book about this stuff, then he's not going to say always believe women.
I hope that he's learned from this. There was also, like, even more damning than that was the fact that she submitted one of the few texts that she submitted. I made a tweet about this. I want to go find it really quick just so I remember
exactly go for
what it said. But she was acting like including that made her look good, and it does the exact opposite. So, okay, this is the part. It's point 48, and it says, indeed, these facts are not in dispute. Mr. Baldoni and the Wayfarer parties have already admitted that Miss Lively raised concerns multiple times. They admitted that they created a plan in case she made her grievance public, in which they planned to plant stories suggesting Miss Lively was a bully and weaponizing feminism. Okay, they admitted that okay, sorry.
You're good. No, you're
they
good.
They admitted that within hours of laying out their plan, they started to see a shift on social due largely to Jed and his team's efforts to shift the narrative, and they did all this despite the knowledge that Miss Lively, quote, genuinely believes she's right and that all of this is unjust. And the text message from Justin says, okay, thank you. Yeah, I just know her personality, and this is the kind of person that genuinely believes she's right and that all of this is unjust. And then I believe this was Melissa Nathan, if I'm remembering correctly, said, she fully does, I know it. He says, so those people seek justice, in quotes, at any cost. That's why I just have a hard time believing she's done, but trusting you and grateful for you. The other person said, she looks abominable if she does anything against you. She knows it. So the way this text reads to me is like someone who's walking on eggshells with someone who seems to be like a narcissist who's just weaponizing all these innocuous
You're
things.
saying that Baldoni was walking on eggshells?
Yeah, like the way that he's talking about her, he knows that she will seek justice because she
Mhm.
believes like she's a victim. She truly believes she's a victim. And she's like submitting this as if this is proof. But it's like anyone who's dealt with someone of this sort of magnitude knows that like this language is very much not making her look good.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You're saying that Blake Lively's complaint presents it as if, look,
Yes.
here's Justin Baldoni showing that he knows or he believes that Blake Lively believes what she's saying. But you're saying that this is also how when we're dealing with narcissist or borderline personality disorder people or any of these cluster Bs, you have to like you understand that they actually believe their own bullshit, right?
Yes, it's like, yeah, he's saying that he's theory of mind. Like he understands that what Blake Lively is alleging, like in her warped worldview, she in some sense like believes genuinely in her narrative that she's a victim in whatever way. Whether she believes all of it, I don't know, but she's presenting that as if that's like substantial evidence that she is a victim. It's just insane.
Yes, yes, there were so many head scratchers actually in this thing. I mean, I liked that Team Baldoni also, I believe it was them, took issue with the inclusion of the intimacy coordinator. I saw someone pointing out how messed up this was that they put this random quote from I think it was a Hollywood Reporter article where
Mhm.
this intimacy coordinator. Remember, she was commenting on the video of them dancing, and she said that she thought, as an intimacy coordinator, in her opinion, there were some lines that had been crossed or things that were not done properly there. I disagree with that opinion, but that was her opinion. But they put this in to the amended lawsuit, and someone rightfully pointed out online, or maybe it was Legal Bites, someone rightfully pointed out that this is not evidence that you would be putting into a suit like this, because this is not like some expert witness. There's a voir dire
Right.
process, there's a cross examination, there are things that happen in this official process. So basically, point being, there was no reason for them to put that in there, except they're obviously trying to appeal to the public. And so to me, they're really grasping at straws at times. And like you're talking about with some of the content in the amended complaint, it's just like it's not evidence of anything. It's twisted around, it's taken out of context. I saw that happening a lot.
Absolutely, and I completely agree with what you're saying. Like, why are we getting quotes from an intimacy coordinator who wasn't there's opinion on some footage that she watched back and is interpreting it in a certain way? Okay, fair enough, she can have her opinion. What I'm more interested to see is that Blake Lively is contending that she did in fact meet with the intimacy coordinator and that Justin Baldoni is lying by insinuating that because she texted once that oh, like, I'm good, I don't need to meet the intimacy coordinator, um I feel good. And she's saying that he weaponized that text message to make it look like she never met with the intimacy coordinator, and is maintaining that she actually did meet with the intimacy coordinator, she just didn't need to before filming started. So where's the evidence that you ever met with the intimacy coordinator? We wanna see that. Like, I don't care
That's
who
true.
this
Why don't we have that? I
random
mean,
person is.
no, no, that's very good. Well, and on the topic of the intimacy coordinator, so far, there's only one side that has come out with actual text of someone being avoidant toward the intimacy coordinator, and that is Justin Baldoni's side, showing in his lawsuits like you were mentioning earlier, that Blake Lively she was given these opportunities, and Justin said, I'd like to get together with the intimacy coordinator and you and hash this out or go over this or that. And she's like, nah, I'm fine. I'll do it later. Like, it was very, very dismissive. And you see this, like, he has a number of pieces of evidence, textual and DM evidence of this, him talking to other people about this, talking to the intimacy coordinator, et cetera. So again, one side is coming with the receipts and the other is coming with misconstruals and insinuations. And in Blake Lively's case, with the uncomfortable women, her own subsequent recreation of their supposed textual conversations. I mean, to me, that was just the most jaw-dropping thing again. And it's like you said, if you're going to include text messages and DMs in other parts of your document, then it really is a head scratcher. It's very obvious when then you say at the most crucial moment, okay, show us these conversations with these women who are uncomfortable. She pulls back.
Yeah. And it's like, why in Justin Baldoni's many various lawsuits, it's like he doesn't waste any space or any time on random, ramblings. Blake Lively's lawsuit, it reminds me of like when you're writing an essay on something and you just have to get the word count, but you don't know what you're talking about. Because it's like, why do we have random snippets from Justin Baldoni's own, like plagiarizing Justin Baldoni's philosophy? Random test, like opinions of other intimacy coordinators, and then things that just aren't relevant to, in my opinion, to her allegations. I guess the point is to like paint a picture of who Justin Baldoni is, but like she has just these strange points in there, like Justin Baldoni tried to contact her dead father, and with this weird it's like, okay, but is that harassment? Like, what does this have to do?
No, you're right. I mean, it is strange. Let's say that he did do that. Like, she alleges a couple of times in her complaints that the dead father was brought up, and once she claims after Justin Baldoni was supposedly kicked out of their car for talking about consent improperly, he was kicked out of the car, and then didn't she claim that he was like running after her, saying something about her dad? I don't know. It sounds insane. But let's say then that the dad was brought up in some way. Like, again, you're right. Like, what does that show other than, okay, he's maybe kind of weird or whatever? I mean, I know a lot of people who have spiritual beliefs they think they're going to see their relatives one day when they die or whatever. Is that a crime? You're right. It is very odd.
She just, it's like, I think that's one of the biggest standing points against her, is that she wastes so much time in this lawsuit rambling about things that aren't proving her point. She doesn't provide any evidence for any of this stuff. She's talking about random things. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. I was going to say something else.
It's 5:30 over there, right?
It is. Yeah, that's my excuse.
She has been up all night. She's in Australia. So everybody say your prayers for her that she can make it through this. No, you're doing great. There's a lot of random shit in there, and it's a deflection. No, it totally is. And again, to front load, to introduce your document, your amended complaint, with these quotes from Justin Baldoni's book, like their point is he's being a hypocrite because he said here, believe the women in your life, and now he's saying don't believe Blake. Okay, I get the point, but it's just not that interesting, and it doesn't prove anything. Show us that he is a hypocrite, because you can demonstrate all of these terrible things that he did, right? Don't just tell me, oh, he's a misogynist and look what he said in his book. It's so stupid.
Sorry, I do remember my train of thought now. All of that, and then it's just, I think that with her own words, she's demonstrating like a skewed perspective of like what's actually happening, because why is she trying to hammer home the point that like, oh, Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer were taking credit and proud of and basking in the glory of the film succeeding and making money and getting the message across to domestic violence survivors. Why wouldn't they? It's their movie. You were hired as an actress. You admitted, like in the first few pages, you were hired as an actress and executive producer, and not anything beyond that. Her role was not anything beyond that. So then why were you making your own cut of the film? Like, you are literally like
overstepping
your whole entire suit here.
No, it's true. It's true, and it's a lot of it's a lot of projection because the things that she tends to accuse them of doing are things that in some form she's actually doing herself. Well, I wanted to ask you, there have been a lot of theories floated about Blake and Ryan Reynolds, and to the extent, that he's involved, probably a lot, right? But the theories about their motives in all of this, and of course, Candace and others have said that what happened was he looked at the daily rushes and he got jealous, or there was something he didn't like on them from It Ends With Us, and then he blew a gasket, and then Blake Lively then had to, at that point, felt compelled to claim that Justin Baldoni had been harassing her, and that's how it started. Other people say that it's about rights to future Colleen Hoover books that they were wanting to acquire. And of course, Ari Jacob has said if they could trigger a morality clause in Justin's contract, then they could take the books away from him. Other people have speculated that they're just very, very controlling on the films that they're on. We've seen Blake has admitted to doing this before. We've seen Ryan Reynolds having problems with Deadpool, or the director leaving Deadpool because of his overreach. And so the idea is that this is just what they do on movies, and they had this director that they saw was a pushover in the studio. They were still kind of newbies and they could just do whatever they want. So all of that having been said, what do you think is, if you had to guess, is the motivator then for what Blake and Ryan have been doing?
So I couldn't tell you with any sense of certainty, obviously, what their motive was. I think it's all speculation at this point, but I do think there is something to the fact that this is a pattern of behavior. Like Ryan Reynolds has apparently like pushed out other directors out of movies. They've quit
Right.
films because they were like, Reynolds just hijacked the whole film. I can't work like this, with multiple other creatives. And it does seem like maybe Lively's sense of like what's normal is maybe skewed because of that. She kind of wants to channel that sort of. I think they think that it's cool to I don't know that they see it as like bullying. I think they
Oh yeah.
want to come in as collaborators and visionaries. Even if they do use bullying tactics, they're probably just thinking, well, like this is the cost of
This is
making
the
great
game.
art,
Right. This is the
and I'm
industry.
going to be respected not just as an actor. Especially Blake Lively. She really, I think, is trying to play catch up here after having 4 kids and kind of taking a backseat compared to Reynolds, who's been
Right.
like a huge star, way more likable. She's done some, like Gossip Girl and Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, but this was her chance to prove that like she's not just a pretty face in these silly little shows, and she can be like a real powerhouse filmmaker. The only problem is she wasn't hired to do that. And
Right.
I do think, as far as the speculation that like Candace Owens brought up that maybe Ryan Reynolds was jealous, I think that's definitely a possibility. But it's like, given their history on films, I don't know if that's more likely than this is just their normal mode of operating on
Right.
films.
Right. And it could be a combination of these as well. And
Yeah,
then,
for sure.
and then there's also, look, I also think that we know that some people are oil and water personality wise, right? And there are people that other people love that I'm like, they're annoying, or I think they're narcissistic, or whatever, vice versa, right?
Right.
And clearly Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni were oil and water, in the sense that, I mean, it doesn't seem like Justin Baldoni had any kind of issue with Blake Lively, but until she started being crazy and domineering. But it really seems like Blake Lively, that Justin Baldoni, either Blake Lively did have a crush or sexual feelings for him, or she really did just overreact to things that he said or did. Or I think that, and this is what I said the other night on my stream, I think that people like Blake Lively, who have a really hard exterior shell and who are kind of like bitchy, kind of manipulative, cutting people. Do you know what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
think that they are actually often intimidated by, or afraid of, or suspicious of people who are really touchy feely, emotionally, spiritual,
Yeah, that's
soft,
a good point.
emotive. And what I keep coming back to in my mind the last couple of days is that interaction that we saw with Baldoni and Lively on camera when they were filming, the onset footage, and they were filming the
Yeah.
dance scene, whatever. And he tells her about how he and his wife do this exercise where they
That's a good
stare at
point.
each other for like 5 or 10 minutes. And you remember what he says to Blake? Because Blake kind of starts like, oh, he's like, I think you would find it terrifying. I think that someone like Blake just probably didn't know what to make of Baldoni, and probably started, and I think was annoyed by his genuineness, because people who aren't genuine and people who are, well, kind of terrible people, they often get annoyed by good people. It bothers them. And so I think there was part of that mixed in with this too, that she really, like, she seems to take all of his ethos and the feminism and gentle masculinity and all that, and she's immediately suspicious of it, instead of seeing it as like a genuine outgrowth of who this guy is. And I just wonder if that was part of this too. Do you know what I'm saying?
That is such a good point I hadn't thought of, because now that I think about it, I have observed that Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, as a couple, they operate through the world like masked in like 7 layers of irony in every single
Yes.
interaction, everything. And Blake Lively, especially, like, she tries to have this Ryan Reynolds sense of humor, but she can't execute it well. Like, it doesn't come off as a joke. It just comes off as tone deaf.
Rude. It comes off as rude, mean bitch.
Yes, and she tries to do the I get it. She's trying to do the deadpan humor thing, but it's never funny when she says it. It just comes off as like super like lacking social acuity, you
Right.
know? And it's so bizarre, and I think that's absolutely maybe that at play there. It's like they're just so layered in like detached irony, sarcasm, that
Yes.
they actually there's like not even a human there anymore.
That's such a good way to put it. I love the way you put it, because I was really struggling to say what I was meaning to say. But yes, exactly. With Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, we get layer after layer of, what did you say? Of irony and
Well,
snark
like, shrouded in 7 different layers of, like, post-ironic, like, humor, you know? And, like,
Yeah,
even
yeah.
when you see this throughout in the way that the private text messages with Justin Baldoni, it sounds exhausting to communicate with these people, because we didn't see much with Ryan Reynolds, but the one text communication conversation we see, it's like he's trying to say, like, "Really, you need to rearrange the shooting for my family, because, like, we need to be together. You need to, like, change all this stuff." But he's, like, saying it in a way that's joking, like, "Oh, I'm gonna tattoo this on my" what did he say? "My perineum," or whatever, and
Yeah.
that it's like he can't be
Talking about
serious.
Ryan Reynolds. Right, exactly. Hold on, someone's calling me here. All right. No, that's exactly right. And people like that, and I could see why these two would be attracted to each other then, because if they understand each other and they understand that dynamic and they're comfortable relating on that level. And so you've got these people suddenly faced with and having to work with, and Ryan, I'm saying having to work with because apparently he's in on everything with Blake, having to work with this really emotionally touchy-feely, I think, genuine guy. I don't think it's a put on, and someone who I don't think people have talked enough also, Jamiee, about the Baha'i faith and its
Yeah.
relationship to this. And I just want to point out, last night I went online and I looked at a website. It was, I think, BahaiTeachings.org or something like that. It may even be a Wayfarer website. But there are lectures, spiritual lectures on there by Justin Baldoni and by Emily, his wife, and I think Jamiee Heath and his wife and some others. Like, these people are all really into multiple levels of this company and the products they're putting out, the stuff they're putting out. But anyway, here's my point. I watched about 10 minutes of Emily Baldoni, the wife, talking about her traumatic birth experience and how she got through it spiritually by tapping into her femininity, and not femininity in like the stupid Barbie thing, but like deeper, like spiritual traits, right?
Right.
And then I watched Justin Baldoni talking about the same thing, talking about the birth experience. And he was talking about his spiritual ideas and how when his daughter was born, he whispered, "Welcome into the world." And then he realized that one day after he dies, when his daughter dies, that he will come from the next realm and he will say, "Welcome to this world." Look, and he starts crying a little bit. That may sound super like cheesy and weird to some people, but it's deep, it's spiritual. I can see it's genuine. These people are not put-ons. And I just don't know how the hell Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds could understand or relate to that, because they're so far from it, you know?
Absolutely. I've been saying that Justin Baldoni's biggest crime here is just being so earnest, like, to a fault. Like, I don't believe any of this is performative fake activism. It's clear that this is so genuine to him. Like, I don't agree with a lot of the things that he kind of naively believes about, like the Me Too movement. Clearly, it kind of backfired on him, but it's like, it, you know, I'm not going to be like, that's its own form of bias, is to be
Right.
like, just
Exactly.
like, not, don't be so cynical to think that every single person who has like cares to fight for a cause, even if you don't agree with it or believe in it, that it's all just to score points.
Right.
Because at every level, it just seems like we can see the trajectory of his career. He's just structured his entire life around activism. It's clear that he kind of, I think
And
he feels like,
spirituality too, not I
yes,
want people to understand, I misunderstood him initially. I thought it was some kind of political woke activism, but I've looked at some of his interviews, even the most recent one that came out on Gents Talk, and he said, "I don't like the term toxic masculinity. I don't believe masculinity is toxic. I don't like the politicization of these issues, et cetera, et cetera." So I think a lot of people just don't even understand. I'm sorry, go on.
right. No, yeah, I totally agree. I don't know that much about the Baha'i faith, but I do know that that does play that has informed, like
Right.
all of his beliefs, and that just makes sense. And I mean, I just think that like just because someone is maybe a little naive to like the implications of all of their like he's not, a
Right.
political scientist or anything. He's an actor, and
Right.
to give him credit, he's working in an industry that does have Harvey Weinsteins, and maybe
Right.
he has seen a lot of
Right.
nefarious things where young women are taken advantage of in that industry, and that informs your opinions on a deep level as well. Like, I think it's very easy to be like, why can't you just like step back and see the sham that is accepting wholesale the idea that we should just believe all women? But you have to remember, they're working in an industry where the counter signal for them, that is the counter signal. They feel like they're living in an industry where the Harvey Weinsteins are running the show. So that's kind of like
Right.
their own way of fighting back against that.
Right, right. And again, y'all, what I keep coming back to in this is even for people who aren't in love with Justin Baldoni, or for people who there are elements of his CV, so to speak, his resume that they don't like, or things that he said, but whatever. But again, what we're coming down to, y'all, is that he was sucker punched and attacked and canceled by Blake Lively, and it seems Ryan Reynolds. And so again, this is not even a case of like, oh, there's two celebrities in a fight. Do you really like one of them? Like, I saw Mary Morgan on Pop Culture Crisis yesterday or the day before, and she was talking about how she does not really care or have a dog in the fight, so to speak, of Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni. She has reasons to dislike both of them, and that's totally fine. But I would just say, though, again, this is not just a celebrity feud. This is one guy who was in a movie studio, a production studio behind him, who were trying so hard to mind their own damn business and put up with these constant incursions and intrusions from this narcissistic actress and her powerful husband. They got through the film like through gritted teeth, smiles on their face, whatever. And then she decided after it was over, after her problems were basically going away anyway that she had had online, that thing was dying down, as that umbrella guy pointed out yesterday in his video. The negative coverage of her on social media, it was losing traction. It was going away. People were getting bored with it. And then all of a sudden she decides that she's going to sucker punch this guy in this studio and try to scapegoat them for her problems, and in the process destroy them. And she had no problem with that. To me, that's not an equivocal situation. There is clearly an aggressor, an attacker, a culprit in this, and it's Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. Sorry for that diatribe there.
No, I completely agree. I love Mary, but I do
I do
get
too. Yeah.
and I do, this isn't about her, but just on
Right.
that sort of vein of thought, I do get annoyed when people are like trying to reduce things down to celebrity drama when quite obviously the reason that people are so invested in it is because of the implications it has
Yes.
on a widespread like political level, on a sociological level. It reminds me of that meme where it's like that, it's like making fun of libertarians, where it's like, why does the collective well-being of society matter to you? LOL, mind your biz. And it's like, it's not just like oh, you know, like, who cares what
Right.
happens to two, you know, rich celebrities? Like, yeah, okay, sure. But it's like, what does this legal battle signify?
Right.
That's the only reason we're
Right.
all plugged into this.
Right.
We
And
don't want powerful celebrities to be able to just hijack, like, waft around their dragons and their money and accuse people, you know, take advantage of well-meaning people and accuse them of horrendous things and face no repercussions for that. That's ridiculous.
no, you're absolutely right. Absolutely agree. And also, I think people need to understand as well who are critical of us paying attention to this. The reason why, and I have this conversation with my significant other a lot too, because he hates all the celebrity stuff. And that's why he didn't watch any of my videos for like the first 3 years that I was on. He's only started recently because he's kind of figuring out that maybe there's a little more going on. I think he thought I was just doing Perez Hilton stuff, which no offense to Perez, okay, because Perez has been doing great coverage of this. But this is the significance of the celebrity stuff is that also, y'all, it's human drama. We're watching these people, kind of larger than life people. I'm not saying they're more amazing or interesting than normal people, but this is basically like a large scale drama playing out in front of our eyes. And so it's not just like celebrity worship or some kind of celebrity fixation. It's that this is real life drama. And so it's just like if you watch a movie, except the movie I know is fake, but it's the same dynamic. So to me, like, obviously we have too much tabloid culture. There's all kinds of unhealthiness associated with it. I'm not going to pretend that everything that I'm involved in here with all the social media stuff is healthy. But I will say at the same time, like, it's not just some kind of superficial celebrity shit. There's more going on here.
Absolutely. People try to use the same talking points in the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard case.
Right.
And it's like, this isn't like, use your brain here. It's not just about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. It's about the big picture. Do we want to live in a society where women just print like their version of allegations that look like they never happened, and that just
Right.
torpedoes someone's entire life and career
Right.
without any, you know, investigation, without any second thought? It's as simple as that.
Right, right. I just randomly saw this picture and I wanted to mention something that Justin Baldoni said on his on the podcast. I think the latest interview actually that he put out. This picture was originally the picture on his book Undoing My Masculinity. I'm sorry if I'm getting the title wrong, but anyways, this was originally apparently the picture on his book, and he mentioned how he ended up taking it off. He changed apparently the cover of the book because he realized that his photo was turning off a lot of people, and he did not go into detail at that point about why his photo was turning people off or what he perceived about it. But I think Justin Baldoni understands what we're saying here too, about how people have a suspicion, a pretty strong suspicion, when guys, particularly a good looking guy like this, presents himself as this like very emotive, touchy feely, like, feminist type or whatever. Right. So I just want to say, I'm very sure that Justin Baldoni is aware that there is this, not a bias, like you just said, a bias against him and some of the work that he's done by people who haven't really sat down and looked at it. And of course, I don't agree with everything he's written or whatever. That doesn't even need to be said, right? But I thought that was interesting, though, how he conceded that, and he said that he even changed the cover because it was coming across. He didn't say this, but I think the implication was that it was turning people off and that it was coming across as like maybe narcissistic or fake or something, like, I don't know. But anyway, everybody has challenges in life, and you look at a guy like Justin Baldoni, who is super good looking and talented and articulate, and I think it's easy to forget that he has certain challenges too. And his challenges are that there's, when a guy looks like this and presents himself the way he does, there's a certain suspicion that a lot of people feel.
Right, and there is also that, like, cliche of the performative feminist who
Yes.
really is trying to hide, like, predatory behavior. That is, like,
Yes.
has become a common cliche, and I think he's aware of that, but he's trying to communicate that just because that is a cliche and there are, you know, bad actors in this industry who do weaponize feminism like that, that doesn't mean that every single person who has dedicated their career to activism of this sort is a predator. Like, that's not
Right.
evidence
And
in
that's
it
something
as
that
well.
I've learned. You know, when you talk about what are people learning in this situation, I hope, and if Justin Baldoni ever happens to hear this, I hope that this situation is causing you to reevaluate some of your previous ideas about the purity of women, perhaps, or and about believe all women and that sort of thing. And also, maybe if you had any biases against women who are more, say, on the right than the left, this might, you know, I think that's kind of an interesting thing too. It's interesting to see Marilyn Manson was being defended by a lot of people, but also by people more who are right of center like me or libertarian or what have you, right? Who are seeing through, have seen through the problems with Me Too. But in terms of lessons that I've learned, I think that I've learned about my own bias towards people who present themselves the way Justin Baldoni does. And I certainly, you know, I hate to say it, but when I saw the man bun photos, I was just like, okay, come on, whatever. And so then when Blake Lively put out that really stupid complaint, I had some problems with it. I could even see through parts of it, but like referring to the birthing video as thinking it was pornography and offensive and all that. But I was still kind of like, yeah, but it's that man bun feminist guy, you know, so whatever. So I've learned my lesson. But anyways, I want to close out because I gotta go, but I definitely want to have you on again. Is this the first video you've ever done or live stream?
I did one with Popcorn Planet during
Oh,
the
okay.
Depp trial, so this is my
Okay.
second.
Okay, awesome. So, oh, I wanted to pop your cherry there. Uh-oh, don't sue me for sexual harassment. But people should check you out. Let me pull up your Twitter and real quick. But while I'm doing that, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you want to bring up or you have some comments on that we didn't get to?
Well, I don't wanna keep too much of your time
No, no,
if
no,
you
go
have
on. No,
to
we got
head
10
out.
minutes. No, go on.
Yeah, so there was I did mention the Kevin Spacey thing to you, and you apparently hadn't seen it, right? Well,
Oh, yeah. Should I pull that up? What
if
is
you
that?
want to, it's just to clarify, I haven't been following Spacey over the years either, but I did fall down a deep rabbit hole today just because of the bizarre things that took place yesterday, which was Guy Pearce came forward,
Okay, and
not came
first of all, people aren't gonna know who Guy Pearce is, so hold on. Not I mean, I know some do, no offense to anybody, but let me bring up a picture. You keep talking then. So Guy Pearce, he's an actor, Australian actor, right?
Yes,
Okay,
if you guys have seen Memento by Christopher Nolan, he was the lead in that.
I'm
That's
bringing
like
him up here,
a
but go on.
major movie he's known for. And he basically he gave like a podcast interview in the Hollywood Reporter and said that during the filming of LA Confidential in 1997, he didn't say Kevin Spacey like, molested him or anything. He avoided like saying identifying with like being a victim, but he implied that something happened because he said that Kevin Spacey definitely targeted him and that he made him uncomfortable and he was a handsy guy that scared him.
So he said
Uh,
he was handsy, but he didn't claim that he was actually, like, sexually groped or anything?
he didn't say anything specific, but it was clear that he was saying that he said that he was targeted by him and like was
He felt uncomfortable? No, I'm sorry.
yeah, he was saying that Kevin Spacey was making sexual advances to
Gotcha,
him
okay,
in 1997.
okay.
And Kevin Spacey responds on
Should I
X
show
with
the
a
video? Is it kinda I have the video here, the Spacey response.
yeah, yeah, it's a 3-minute video.
Okay,
It's
I'll just show it 1 second
yeah.
here. Yeah, and by the way, the reason I haven't covered Spacey is because I just don't entirely know what to think. I definitely I watched the documentary about him, and there was so much BS in that, and there clearly so many men that were leading him on,
Mhm.
pretending and hoping to get something from him, and then turned on him later in the press. So my feeling on him is he's probably been sort of unfairly to some degree, maybe a large degree unfairly Me Too. But then also, I don't know, because he has kind of admitted to, as he says, getting too handsy sometimes with people. And he says there's things he has to apologize for, whatever. So I don't really know. But I do think that I don't think he should have just been like completely canceled over allegation. He won multiple court cases, didn't he? He won a court
He's been
the UK.
acquitted of all charges against him
Yeah, so
in
there
all
you
the
go. He
cases so
shouldn't
far.
whatever the truth is, he's now gone through court processes over in Great Britain and here. I think the police just declined to file charges. There was no case. Over there, he was actually put on trial for several things, right? And was acquitted, not just hung jury or whatever, but actually acquitted. So anyway, okay, let's watch this. So this is his response then to Guy Pearce, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
I, Guy Pearce, I've now read the comments that you made about me, and while I would have preferred not to have to play this out in the media, you obviously have your own reasons for wanting to do exactly that. But we worked together a long time ago. You know, if I did something then that upset you, you could have reached out to me. We could have had that conversation. But instead, you've decided to speak to the press, who are now, of course, coming after me because they would like to know what my response is to the things that you said. You really want to know what my response is? Grow up. Did you also, by the way, tell the press that a year after we shot LA Confidential, you flew to Savannah, Georgia, while I was shooting Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, just to spend time with me? I mean, did you tell the press that too? Or does that not fit into the victim narrative you have going? So anyway, I apologize that I didn't get the message that you don't like spending time with me. I mean, maybe there was another reason, I don't know. But that doesn't make any sense that you would have just been leading me on, right? But here you are now on a mission some 28 years later, after I've been through hell and back, to do what? Just in time to stop the bad guy? Huh? Is that what's going on here? What took you so long? Did your horse run out of gas? I mean, you want to have a conversation? I'm happy to do so. Anytime, any place. We can even do it here, live on X if you like. I got nothing to hide.
Good for him, dude.
But Guy, you need to grow up. You are not a victim.
So tell me what you think about that.
So I don't know what to make of the allegations against him. I mean, to his credit, he hasn't been accused of, like, to the extent of, like, rape or, like, even
Yeah, right.
like,
He put his hand on my crotch or whatever. Yeah.
or like serious like
Right.
the most serious allegation I've seen against him was someone said that he groped them.
Right.
But he does, I'm not gonna lie, Kevin Spacey, something feels off about him. Like, I get the creeps when he talks, only because, like, again, I've held on
Frank Underwood character.
Yeah, okay, so I did get Frank Underwood vibes. I feel like he can't break character. There's something, he's latching onto that. And he has released, like, 4 different in-character fully Frank, not so much this one, but
No, I know
fully
what you're talking about.
Frank Underwood videos where he's using that character to, like,
to address his situation.
Yeah, and they're, like, really, like,
Weird.
ominous and sinister. And, like, the bizarre one was the one called KUWTK, and he was like, the best form of revenge is to kill them with kindness. And then there were, like, a bunch of conspiracy theories because apparently one of his victims, the next day, it was reported that they committed suicide. And it's just, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it's just like, he just creeps me out. But I thought this was, like, really funny, and I don't know what to make of it, but I thought that we had to give it some attention.
No, good for him. He's calling him out, because what it sounds like is Guy Pearce couldn't even bring himself to make an actual allegation. So if you're going to say some shit about this man who's already been canceled and has already been run into the ground by everyone, then say something legit, like, he groped me, he put his hand on my dick, or however you want to say it. But if you're just using this very vague language about something happened, you were uncomfortable, that just doesn't cut it these days. So I'm totally on board with what Spacey's saying here. I don't know totally what to make of him either. And Brian Friedman actually is his attorney too, or was. I don't know if he still is.
Really?
Yeah.
Now he has another attorney because he's, like, retweeting everything he says. He has it in his bio and everything. It's something like Lowenstein.
That's his agent. So his agent, yes, he loves his agent. His agent has been, like, out there, a warrior for him. I wish everyone had an agent like that, frankly. Other guys that have been Me Too'd, but that I think are innocent. But my thing with Spacey is, I think he probably did at times, as he puts it, get a little handsy or cross some lines. But I also think, based on what I've seen looking into it, and even what I saw with that documentary series about him on HBO Max, there were most of these supposed victims admit that they knew that he was sexually interested in them, and they strung him along, even going on one-on-one dates with him, all the while hoping that they could get something out of him without having to give up too much sexually. And so to me, the thing is completely muddied by the fact that most of his accusers themselves admit to doing shady, manipulative, underhanded stuff. And so to me, the fact that the guy has been acquitted, you've had police look into this, you've had courts look into it, a jury acquitted him, he should be free to work. We move on. Or whatever he did do, I think that he has now, through years of cancellation and disgrace, and losing a ton of money, almost bankrupt, I think he's learned his lesson. But anyways, I do have to go. Everybody, thank you so much. Everyone check out Jamiee on Twitter. Let me get your Twitter page up. And you write for Evie magazine. How would you describe Evie?
Evie is like an alternative media women's magazine, I would say. It is JAIMEE, just so you know.
Oh, okay. There we go. I didn't want to look up our conversation. There we go. Okay, so here she is. Can you see that? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So that is her. It's a weird, you've got a weird like handle here actually. Orange.
Oh yeah, I made this. I actually made this handle when I was like 15 and I just never changed it.
Well, that's fine. Well, people see it here, and I'm going to put the link right here now in the chat. But yeah, everybody should check you out. And do you have any opinions? Is Brigitte Macron man, woman? You don't know.
I intentionally have not been following that because I really just don't care. I don't know what that's about, and I wish I could bring myself to care even a little bit, but I can't.
I've watched every episode. I have one comment. I've watched every episode, and I cannot fault Candace Owens for not putting on a good show. Like I can see why it's totally got people captivated. Now, her subject matter, I do take issues with, but I put a picture here the other day, today. So I believe, if I'm not misunderstanding that. Oh, I'm sorry, you can't see that, can you? I made it go away.
I did see a little bit today, and
so
I'm a little shocked
the
at
argument,
what I've heard.
The argument that Candace is making, I believe, is that this is so Brigitte Macron has always said that this was her first husband, Louis Azur, and this picture has been put out there. This is their wedding day, supposedly. Now, Candace and others, I believe, take issue with this photo, but the argument that has been made is that so this is her oldest daughter, that this is not the father. Like, I just see such an obvious.
Oh my gosh, they look exactly the same.
So I just can't go any further with the theory just based on that. Like the theory is that this wasn't actually her husband and that this is not the father of her child, but it's like you see it clear as day. But anyway, I don't know. A lot of people are looking at the picture now of her brother and saying, look, she looks exactly like her brother, so she must be the brother. And I'm just like, y'all, if it's your brother, you do look like them. You share the same genetics. So to me, I understand people are putting that photo out there with her brother and her, and they're saying, oh my God, they look so much alike. But if they're siblings, they're going to look alike. So you got to do better. So I'm still waiting, but I mean, I can't knock Candace for putting on a good show. But I do kind of feel sorry for the president of France and his wife. If it turns out that she's not a man, it's not that they're not fooling everybody. I have watched every episode of Candace's Brigitte Macron series, and also it's about Emmanuel Macron too, and she alleges his past is shady. But I think that what she's building to is, I think this is the big reveal one day, is that Emmanuel Macron is the Antichrist. I think that is where all this is going eventually. So I just want you all to be ready. When it happens, then you can say, oh yeah, Kurt's predicted this.
I'll look out for it. I might have to tune in now. I guess I'm like behind.
I'm just saying, one day I think Candace is going to put out a show, and it's going to be, the title is going to be, is Emmanuel Macron the Antichrist? So
I bet
we'll see. But I can't fault Candace for the coverage she's been doing on this so far and lately. She's providing a lot of top cover for the rest of us. So kudos for that. But everybody, we will see you later. Check out my links below. Thank you to my mods. And Vanessa, Rebel Bird, Laura B is on often, and so is AJ. And yeah, go check out my friends now at Pop Culture Crisis, and don't tell Mary that I was ragging on her. My God. All right.
Yeah, me neither. I love you, Mary.
Thanks, Jamiee. Bye.